because they didn't know nothing. They didn't got nothing on God, and God was dealing with Joseph. But now that's good. Go to Job, the 1st chapter. We're going to look at one more example. Job 1. We all heard about Job, and we're not going to read about all that he went through, but Job, in a nutshell, he lost everything that he had, all his wealth, everything that he had, and the last straw, you heard of the straw that broke the camel's back? Well, it was the last straw, but as far as Job was concerned, it still didn't break the camel's back, because he knew that regardless, he had to be patient and wait on God. He understood that. He knew what nothing more important than serving God to get salvation. Nothing is worth losing that in this life. Job 1 and verse 18. Okay, go ahead.
While he was yet speaking, there came also another, and said, Thy sons and thy daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house.
See, now Job got all this bad news all at one time. One after another. They tell him how he lost his cattle. Oh, they got killed. If one bad thing happened after another. Finally, the last straw, while he was yet speaking, somebody came and told him about his own sons and his daughter. He had about 10 kids, I think. Your sons and your daughters were eating and drinking wine in their elder brother's house. Go ahead, verse 19.
And behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness, and smote the four corners of the house, and it fell upon the young men, and they are dead.
Now, all of his children in one swoop got killed. Like we would call it a tornado or something. Well, it happened to Job. In one swoop, it said it fell upon the men, and they are dead, and I am only escaped alone to tell thee. Satan made sure Job got the message about his kids. And now, obviously, we know a man lose all his kids at once, he's going to be devastated. But pay attention to how Job handled his devastation. Verse 20.
Then Job arose and rent his mantle, and shaved his head, and fell down upon the ground and worshiped. You mean he still got enough nerve to worship God? He ain't cursing God out or acting real crazy? No, he was devastated, obviously. But he shaved his head and fell on the ground and worshiped. Go ahead, verse 21. And said, Naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Now Job, he still knew that God was in charge. And he had enough understanding to know, well, if God was wise enough to bless me and give me my children, I'm sure he's wise enough when it's time to take them. He gave them to me. See, we don't even think like that. We think we run something. Look, you don't run nothing but your mouth. He said, look, naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. So that's the way he looked at it. He said, look, I'm going to tell you something. When I got here, I didn't have nothing. So it shouldn't be too bad for me to leave with nothing. That's the way the Lord saw fit to do it. What I got to say about the Lord? Blessed be the name of the Lord. Verse 22. In all this, Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly. See, it made a point of saying that because that would be on the average natural mind. The natural mind would think to blame God. Like I hear people all the time, well, it must not be no God. He let this happen. What kind of God do? What kind of God? Look, you're just talking foolish. That's what people do, though. If it was God, he wouldn't do. Look, God do what he want to do. You better fall in line and learn to fear him. So that's what Job understood. Job lost everything in one day. But yet and still, he still worshiped God, and he did not charge God foolishly, it said. Now Job, I'm sure Job didn't believe one iota that he was going to get blessed in this life and have all that back, which he did get blessed. Before it was all over with, God gave more than he had in the first place. Gave more kids. God can do that, right? Amen. Gave more kids, which Job never even dreamed of that. But Job, even without that, Job knew he had to still be patient to serve God. He knew salvation was worth
more than everything he had already lost. So that's what he was striving for. But because he patiently waited, hey, the Lord blessed him immensely more than what he had. But now, we ain't going to read it in Job. You can read that on your own. Go to James, the 5th chapter. I know I got Lamentations, don't I? Mm-hmm. I messed something up here, but we're going to go ahead to, I don't know where I want to go. I guess we go to James, because I want to just read this. I skip around since I wrote it like that. We'll go to James first, James 5, and we're going to pick it up at verse 10, because I want to conclude this with Job. Because he's going to tell you about Job here. Then we'll come back here in a minute. James, the 5th chapter. James 5, we're going to read a couple of verses, and then we're going to leave. Verse 10. James 5 and verse 10. Go ahead.
Take, my brethren, the prophets who have spoken in the name of the Lord for an example of suffering, affliction, and of patience.
See, now this is what James is telling us, because he understands. Just like I said, a lot of Israelites, they seem like they're not expecting to go through no affliction and stuff that they have to be patiently enduring. I know Israel going to be ruling the world in the end, but it's a whole lot in between now and then. We talking about great tribulation that a lot of people are not talking about is going to come, and it's going to be a whole lot of affliction. But we got examples of that, of people enduring various afflictions. He said, take my brethren the prophets who have spoken in the name of the Lord for an example of suffering, affliction, and of patience. They had patience. They dealt with it because they knew wasn't nothing worth losing salvation. Go ahead, verse 11.
Behold, we count them happy which endure.
See, we count them happy which endure, because that's what we got to do. And you will be happy if you endure. Go ahead.
Ye have heard of the patience of Job.
See, we all heard of the patience of Job. Well, that was right. He was patient. He dealt with what he had to deal with. Go ahead.
And have seen the end of the Lord, that the Lord is very pitiful and of tender mercy.
See, but that's where we got to get to. See, the Lord is merciful, as people say all the time. But that don't mean you won't go through nothing in the meantime. That's what people seem to forget. He said, we've seen the end of the Lord. See, you can read Job and you see how his end was, how he got blessed with more than what he had in the first place, kids included. Got it all back. So he said, we have seen the end of the Lord, that the Lord is very pitiful and of tender mercies. So, but in order for you to see that, you're going to have to be patiently in doing something. You're going to have to deal with what you have to deal with. Now, we're going to come back to James. I tell you what, go to Lamentations now. We'll come back to James. Go to Lamentations, which is right after Jeremiah. That's the one we skipped over. Lamentations 3. See, we got all these examples of the prophets. We read a simple example about Jacob, how he was just patiently waiting on a wife instead of jumping the gun like most people do nowadays. Nothing wrong with a man wanting a wife or a woman wanting a husband, but you have to be patient and wait on it. Lamentations 3 and verse 25. Okay, go ahead.
The Lord is good unto them that wait for him.
See, again, it's them that wait for him, right?
That's right.
The Lord is good unto them that wait for him. But sometimes we think we got to take matters in our own hand. Go ahead.
To the soul that seeketh him.
Uh-huh.
It is good that a man should both hope and quietly wait for the salvation of the Lord.
He said that's good, that you hope and quietly wait for the salvation of the Lord. Go ahead.
It is good for a man that he bear the yoke in his youth, and sitteth alone and keepeth silence because he hath borne it upon him.
See, he even telling you it's good that you go through something, even when you're young. It's good that you bear the yoke when you're young. And just sit there and shut your mouth up. He sitteth alone and keepeth silence because he hath borne it upon. He said that's good for you because that would do what? That would teach you some patience. That you have to be patient and deal with whatever situation you in. See, but we don't think like that. But this is what's happening. Go ahead.
He putteth his mouth in the dust.
He put his mouth in the dust. That means he ain't boastfully talking a whole lot of crap that don't mean nothing. Go ahead.
If so be there may be hope. He giveth his cheek to him that smiteth him. He is filled full with reproach. For the Lord will not cast off forever.
Go ahead.
But though he cause grief, yet he will have compassion according to the multitude of his mercies.
See, the Lord will cause grief, but he's going to have compassion. But what do? We have to have to patiently wait on it. Now, let's go back to James. We'll go back to James and wrap that up. James, the 5th chapter. Back to James 5, and we're going to pick it up at verse 7. James 5, and we're going to pick it up at verse 7. James 5, start at 7. Okay, go ahead.
Be patient, therefore, brethren, until the coming of the Lord.
See, just like all examples we've had, what James is telling us to use those examples and follow those examples. Be patient, therefore, brethren, unto what? Until the coming of the Lord. See, that's what it's going to take, though, to endure. See, that's the whole goal. You got other people making other goals. I know some Israelites thinking it's about, trying to have something and do something now, trying to plant some corn so you can survive a hard time. Look, they got laws now. I heard they got some laws now where they saying you can't even plant nothing in your own backyard. Look, because the Lord gave the world into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar. And it's the time of the Gentiles, and they are going to rule to the last hour of the rulership that the Lord gave them. Only thing you can do is patiently endure. Seek and serve the Lord and endure. That's what you got to worry about doing. Be patient, therefore, brethren, until the coming of the Lord. Go ahead.
Behold, the husbandman waiteth for the precious fruit of the earth, and hath long patience for it, until he receive the earlier and the latter rain.
See, he's talking about the Lord, and he's the husbandman in this case. He waited for the precious fruit of the earth and have long patience for it, until he receive the early and the latter rain. So if he got long patience for it, then we're going to have to patiently wait on him. Go ahead, verse 8.
Be ye also patient. Establish your heart.
See, that's what he's telling us to do. Be ye also patient. Establish your heart. In other words, get your mind set up. Get your mind girded to be patient, to endure whatever it is you got to endure. Be ye also patient. Establish your hearts. Go ahead.
For the coming of the Lord draweth nigh.
See, it's coming. It's drawing nigh, but you got to endure in the meantime. Verse 9.
Grudge not one against another, brethren, lest ye be condemned. Behold, the judge standeth before the door.
See, even say, grudge not one against another. Because people start holding grudges and being mad at each other. And if you operate that way, you ain't going to get no mercy from the Lord. See, we need the Lord to patiently be patient with us and forgive us of our shortcomings and give us time to get things together. We need the Lord to do that. Then we should feel the same way about somebody else. Like it's an example. You can read that on your own. We're gonna go to Hebrews 12 now. But it is an example in I think Matthew 18. It's a parable Jesus gave about two men. Really, it's all about one man. He owed a man a whole lot. And the man said, look, since you owe me this, I want to sell your kid. I'm going to take your kids and sell you so I can get my money. I'm going to get some money off your kid. I'm going to sell your wife and your kids. And the man got down on his knees. He said, oh, Lord, be patient with me. Be patient with me. I'll pay y'all. Just be patient with me. And the man was patient with him. The man forgave him. He said, look, since you appealed to me like this, I'm going to forgive you of that debt. So he had mercy on him, right?
Right.
And this same cat is saying the parable that Jesus gave, I think it's Matthew 18, he turned around